Hello everyone, and welcome back to my What If series. Today we'll be doing my first What If episode set in Arc 3, and I'm really excited to share it with you. Before we get started, I want to remind everybody that today is the last day you can pledge to the Kickstarter for my Wings of Fire theme playing cards. The campaign will close at midnight Central Standard Time tonight, November the 12th, so if you want to get yourself or a friend these awesome cards, today is your final opportunity to do so. Anyways, without further ado, let's move into today's episode. Cricket had always found plants, well, maybe a little too fascinating. Sure, the Hivewings lived in massive, thick trees, building their hives into the huge, stretching branches and carving into the warm trunks. She couldn't remember a time when the quiet rustling of leaves in the wind at night hadn't comforted her. But Cricket got the feeling that to most Hivewings, the trees were just things that they had, like tea kettles or pieces of paper. Cricket, on the other hand, thought about plants a lot. There were so many kinds, and they did so many things for the Hivewings. And how was it that their trees were so big anyways? There were plenty of regular-sized trees outside the hives, and some of the bigger cities had even expanded out into the smaller trees on their fringes. But for the most part, the Hivewings seemed happy to accept the trees as simply something they had. In school, Cricket picked all the classes pertaining to care of their trees and running their cities. She wanted to learn about the plants and find out how the Hivewing scientists made them so big. Then maybe she could help discover new techniques and bring her tribe even further along. When she finished school, to Cricket's joy, she was assigned to work with one of the scientists in charge of her hive tree. That night, before her first day, she was nearly too excited to sleep. Cricket couldn't wait to finally find out the secrets of the Hivewings' trees. When she arrived on her first day, though, all of Cricket's ideas were shifted. The scientists all worked with a Leafwing, the tribe of dragons who worked in the trees and the forests around them. Cricket had met Leafwings before. They tended to be a quiet group, largely background noise. All she really knew about them was that they didn't have their own queen, and that their jobs were mostly to take care of the plants. But the scientist Cricket was working with told her that Leafwings played a bigger part in their society than she realized. This Leafwing, Myrtle, had a power the scientist called Leaf Speak. Myrtle herself didn't say much. She went where the scientist pointed and did as the scientist ordered. Cricket thought it wasn't really anything clever at all. They just had someone telling the Leafwings where to go. Over the next few weeks, Cricket was a little crushed to find out that everything she'd thought had been not wrong, but not right either. The scientists had 4 Leafwings with Leaf Speak in their hive tree. Mostly they took the green dragons to places around the tree and had them use their powers to heal small patches of mold or illness, to smooth raw edges, or to encourage new growth. Myrtle wasn't the most powerful Leafwing, but she was near the middle of their group. Then there were the other groups of Leafwings taking care of the rest of the tree hives too, Cricket was told. So that meant that it wasn't really anything the Hivewings had done at all. But that was okay, she reasoned. They just had to figure out how the Leafwings healed the trees and find a way to do it themselves. Everything could be explained somehow, using science. She just knew it. Cricket only had to find out what the explanation was. So despite her disappointment with the Hivewing scientists, Cricket continued to work for them, moving through their ranks as she gained acceptance. She never really got to know Myrtle or the other 3 Leafwings who worked for them. None of them talked much, and most of the other scientists didn't really seem interested in getting to know them anyways. About a year after she'd begun working with the scientists, Cricket finally realized something. No, their hive trees were not normal, or even natural. They were alive and well, thanks to the Leaf Speak performed on them by Leafwings. But that, in and of itself, wasn't enough, Cricket knew. The trees were huge, and dragons had carved homes and shops and buildings into their very bark and flesh. No tree would live like that without something more behind it. But so far, Cricket hadn't seen anything that would explain this, and none of her fellow scientists could answer her questions. Couldn't, or wouldn't, she didn't know. But this didn't stop Cricket from investigating. She delved deeper and deeper into the tunnels that branched through the heart of their tree hive like veins, looking for whatever kept the tree alive while the dragons outside patched it. And it was during those explorations that she found the real secret of the hive tree. There was a Leafwing in the middle of the tree. Her eyes were pure white, and her talons glowed with a faint green shimmer from where they were embedded ankle-deep in the warm, pulsing wood of the tree. She was dark green and flecked with dozens of golden scales, more gold than Cricket had ever seen on a Leafwing before. Cricket almost wondered if she were a hybrid, but then remembered that she must be using leaf speak, so... Cricket tried to talk to the Leafwing, but she didn't respond. She tried snapping her talons near her face, and then, cautiously, she tried poking her wings. Nothing. It was as if the Leafwing couldn't tell she were there at all. Cricket had a bad feeling about this. If this Leafwing wouldn't respond, then was the Queen controlling her right now? But surely the Queen wouldn't need to control her all the time, right? Did the Leafwing get to see her family? Did her family even know where she was? Suddenly, a lot of things shifted again in Cricket's mind. Just because she treated the Leafwings like they were dragons didn't mean everyone else did. And sure, nobody hurt them or treated them badly, exactly, but things like this, or making the other Leafwings work for them, weren't exactly treating them right, either. What if this dragon didn't want to be down here doing this? Did she have a choice? Cricket left that day, but she came back again and again to visit. If she were down here all by herself, she'd be lonely and bored. So she started bringing books with her too, to read to the Leafwing. Maybe she couldn't react, but maybe she could hear Cricket's voice and know that she wasn't all alone. Although she still worked with the scientists, everything began to have a different feeling to Cricket. Suddenly, the scientists seemed blind at best and cruel at worst. Did they know that someone was trapped in the middle of their tree, keeping everything alive for them? Did they know that she never slept, or ate, or did anything at all, somehow? Cricket spent all her spare time with the Leafwing in the tree. Sometimes she read, or talked, or nudged her wings and tail just to remind her that she wasn't alone. If she could even tell Cricket was there, anyways. Hopefully it helped. Meanwhile, Cricket was trying to find some way to free her without collapsing the tree. But eventually, someone beat her to it, and Cricket happened to be reading to the Leafwing when the rescue took place. One moment, she was finishing her sentence and turning a page in her book, and the next there were sounds of dragon talons echoing in the hallway. Cricket had never seen anyone else anywhere near her Leafwing, and she couldn't help but worry that it wasn't a good sign now. She briefly went over her options. She couldn't run, couldn't hide, but maybe she could distract the Hivewings coming? She was a scientist. She could pretend that she was down here doing a job and send them away. Resolute despite her fear, Cricket jumped to her feet and went to stand in front of the Leafwing, waiting for the talons to reach her. And they did, but it wasn't a group of Hivewing soldiers looking at her. It was another Leafwing and 2 Silkwings. Cricket had never seen a Silkwing. They were supposed to have been wiped out after they tried to attack with their flame silk and kill everyone 50 years ago. What were 2 doing here now? And with another Leafwing? Cricket shook her head as they froze, obviously as shocked as she was. Whatever they wanted, it couldn't be good, and she wouldn't let them hurt her Leafwing. If she could distract them and get them to chase her, she could lead them to the guards, or something. Cricket didn't think beyond that. She just shouted, "Get back!" as scarily as she could manage, and leapt at the closest Silkwing. The Silkwing backed up while the other 2 cut around Cricket, leaving her off balance and surrounded. The Silkwing was green and gold, and she lunged forward herself to pin Cricket to the ground, snarling furiously. "Hurry, Blue," she shouted. "No!" Cricket howled frantically, twisting under the green Silkwing as the other one dashed to the frozen Leafwing. "Stop!" she begged, as he ignored her and stood next to Cricket's friend. The new Leafwing, a pale green and brown speckled pattern, had both her talons over the other Leafwing's shoulders, not quite touching, but close. And then, to Cricket's horror, the blue Silkwing started spinning fire from his wrists. She kept struggling, but couldn't get the green Silkwing, who was digging her claws pretty viciously into Cricket's scales, to get off of her. Cricket wanted to look away, almost, so she didn't have to see them do it, but she couldn't. The blue Silkwing cupped a strand of fire in his palm, and held it carefully up to the Leafwing's shoulder. He glanced at the pale Leafwing, and she nodded, though she looked unhappy. "Don't hurt her," Cricket begged, wriggling helplessly. "Please don't hurt her." They continued to ignore her, and the blue Silkwing touched the fire to the Leafwing's shoulder, just for a moment. The change was immediate. The tree shuddered, just slightly, and the Leafwing jerked. Cricket had never seen her move before. She jerked again, and then blinked and her eyes cleared. The Leafwing looked around the room, bewildered at the chaos around her. Her talons rose from the wood, too, and the green glow faded. Cricket froze, unable to even breathe. Sundew! The blue Silkwing shouted, while the pale Leafwing threw herself onto the other in a hug. The Leafwing, Sundew, looked around, her eyes finally settling on Cricket. "Cricket?" she asked, voice hoarse from disuse. "Luna? What's—" She looked down at her talons. "What is happening?" she asked weakly. "We have to go," the green Silkwing, Luna, maybe, snarled, claws digging into Cricket again. "Let's kill this one and go." "No!" Sundew barked frantically, in unison with the blue Silkwing, surprisingly. Luna's tail lashed, bumping into Cricket's. "We have to go now," she said. "The others are making a distraction so we can escape. This one will slow us down, or worse," she hissed in Cricket's ear. "Give us away." "No," Sundew repeated, voice fainter. She was leaning on the pale Leafwing now, looking exhausted. "No, don't. She's—" Her voice trailed off into stuttering. "It's okay," the blue dragon soothed, voice soft and calming. "Don't worry, we won't hurt her." He shot a look at the green Silkwing. "We'll take her with us and figure it all out when we're safe." Sundew didn't say anything, swaying slightly as the pale Leafwing started leading her towards the exit. Cricket squirmed fearfully as the blue and green dragons argued briefly over her head. "Seriously, Blue," the green one snapped. "She'll turn us in the first chance she gets." "Sundew must know her," he countered, looking at Cricket. "And if not, we can leave her before we go home." "Come on, get off her," he said, and to Cricket's immense relief, she obeyed. "Hi," he said, offering her a talon up and ushering her through the tunnel quickly. "I'm Blue, this is Luna. I'm going to need you to come with us." And that'll do it for today. Basically, instead of finding the Hivewing who is mind-controlled all the time with the Book of Clearsight, you have a mind-controlled Leafwing instead. And the Silkwings have formed their own rebellion, led largely by Blue, Luna, and Swordtail. They worked with Hazel, who lives in Cricket's hive, to set up a rescue for Sundew, and now Cricket is tangled up with them as well. And yes, when Luna said the others were making them a distraction, that means there are flame silks setting the hive on fire. Anyways, this'll wrap up today's What If. I really enjoyed working on this, although I did feel like I had to cut myself off a bit short. This could have easily turned into a huge idea, but I wanted to do just a little snapshot, so I had to leave out a lot of, little world-building stuff and plot bits. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to see more, and check out my other What If videos. This episode completes Season 2, and patrons are getting the finales to all 10 episodes, including this one, over on Patreon today, as well as this video. So, if you want to see the season finale with a little bonus scene for all of these stories, head over there for that. Remember to check out the description for links to my socials, as well as those Wings of Fire playing cards. Thank you so much for watching, and please have a wonderful week.